Ladies and gentlemen, the first few days of the Donald Trump presidency have been tumultuous, to say the very least, with his #1 priority being sending back the estimated 11 million illegal immigrants that are believed to be residing in America. At least 18,000 of them are Indians, as reportedly identified through a joint exercise carried out both by India and the United States. And the first batch of these illegal immigrants, 205 of them are already on their way back in a US C-17 military aircraft that is en route to Amritsar as we speak. Sources have confirmed that all those on board the flight have been verified as Indian nationals by the Indian government. It's an honest move by New Delhi that frankly acknowledges the scale of the problem when it comes to Indians trying to enter the US through what is commonly called the donkey route. Figures released by the US government show that 10 illegal Indians are arrested at the US border every hour. 10 illegal Indians arrested at the US border every hour. Staggeringly enough, 5 out of those 10 come from a single state, Gujarat. In fact, some of our viewers may even remember the tragic story of Baldev Patel, his wife and 2 young kids who were found frozen to death while trying to sneak in through the Canada border. This happened in 2022. It made headlines across the world. Unlike other Latin American nations, India has shown remarkable maturity in cooperating with America in this ghar wapasi of illegals. In the short term, New Delhi hopes that this spares the legally immigrated Desi community of persecution. But there's also an ideological commonality here, given that India too suffers from the problem of illegal migration from its neighboring countries. Millions of Bangladeshis, as we speak, continue to live and work in Assam, in West Bengal and the NCR region illegally. The last official figure by the government was in 2016, and that put the figure of illegal Bangladeshis living in India to 2 crores. It could be much more, but that's the figure we have from the government. There are also at least 79,000 Rohingya refugees who have fled Myanmar and entered India and are holed up in camps in Delhi, in Jammu and the northeast. So that's a minimum of 3 crore illegals we are talking about. They live illegally on Indian soil, they live off Indian resources, and in many cases have also contributed to local crimes. Question is, why should they not be sent back? Well, even the Supreme Court feels the same, having cracked down today on the Assam government for not deporting 63 people declared as foreigners after the NRC exercise, asking if it was waiting for some sort of Muhurat to do so. The state argued that it did not know the address of these foreigners in their country of origin, but the court was not convinced, and frankly, neither are we. If America doesn't care about the address of these 205 Indians on their way back and everyone is simply being sent back to Amritsar, should we be caring about the last mile return of these declared foreigners? Now, one of Trump's most infamous promises has been to build a wall along Mexico to curb illegal immigration, much to the ire of its southern neighbor. But India too faces a parallel challenge along its Bangladesh border. 78% of the boundary is fenced, but much of it remains vulnerable, with local resistance and political friction delaying further efforts. The situation is even more dire in Myanmar, with just 10 kilometers out of the 1,643-kilometer border being fenced. That number has gone up to 30 kilometers. So question is, with both countries grappling with border control issues, should India build more barriers and send back aliens, just like the US? It's a conversation that raises questions on security, on sovereignty, and the effectiveness of walls. It's also a conversation with divergent points of view, all of which we'll be getting on the debate this evening. Let me quickly welcome our guests. broadcast. Veena Sikri is a former ambassador joining us as well. Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate with us. Tehseen Puramala is joining us in the studio as well. And Shubhankar Bhattacharya, political analyst, represents the TMC. Sometimes, I don't know who he's representing today, joining us on the broadcast. I know what Mr. Bhattacharya is going to say. He's saying, I only represent myself. Mr. Hegde, can I just start with you and get a legal perspective in? Is it too simplistic to say, if the US can deport illegals on their soil, why can't India do the same? The minimum that we are talking about is 3 crore people living in India illegally, from Myanmar, from Bangladesh. They are a drain on our resources. Why can't we simply send them back the way the US is sending illegals back all over the world?
Now, the first point is that the US has sent it back with India's consent. This has been a joint operation. We do not have cooperation from Bangladesh or Myanmar saying that, yes, those whom you have identified are our citizens. Now, as far as Assam is concerned, there is a separate problem altogether. The problem is linguistic as well. Often people, and largely poor people, who belong to a particular religion and who are speaking Bengali, could possibly be Bangladeshi. They are issued notices, and a legal process takes place where they are asked to prove their citizenship. Most people cannot prove that their ancestors came in before the crucial cutoff years of 1966 and 1971. So you may have a legal process which says that you can't prove your citizenship. Hence, you are declared a foreigner. But there is no other country which is willing to take them back. That is the situation in regard to those 63 people the Supreme Court spoke about. So the Supreme Court's observations need not be taken at face value alone. It may even be questioning the process of identification, because there are 2 processes of identification out there. One is the Foreigners Tribunal process, where there is the onus of proof is cast upon the person alleged to be a foreigner. That is one process. Now, the NRC process which you spoke about was something else. The NRC process said, look, can you prove that your ancestor's name was on an NRC? And then if you produce some documents, the administrative machinery would say, yes, this is proved, this is not proved. One is an administrative process, one is a quasi-judicial process. So that has helped a lot of people say that, yes, look, this was our ancestor, his or her name was on the voters in the NRC list in the 1950s. My simple point is, just because India says that we have identified people who can't prove their citizenship, does not ipso facto make them citizens of another place, and the other place is not willing to take them.
Correct.
So then what do you do?
That's a good point. Karan Verma, what do you do? The fact is that illegal immigrants become a big political issue every time there is an election around the corner. But these are the facts that face us. As far as Rohingyas are concerned, what does Myanmar say? Myanmar says they are not our citizens at all. We don't recognize them as citizens. So what do you do with these Rohingyas, about 1 crore of them who live illegally on this soil? Where do you go and dump them? Because Myanmar is saying, हम तो नहीं लेंगे, तो हमारे citizen ही नहीं है. Bangladesh, on the other hand, most reluctant to accept their people back. They say, prove to us. You are saying that they are not Indian citizens. Fine. But prove to us that they are Bangladeshi citizens. And that becomes a very difficult, complicated exercise for India. How many people do you do it for? Can you do it for all 2 crore people allegedly living on Indian soil who belong to Bangladesh? So while it is all very well for us to say we'll send back illegals, how will we even do it? Where will we send them?
No, it's a very valid question. And I'll start with what we should not be doing on this. And then I'll come to, what we can probably do, because this is for the Home Ministry and for the government of the day to figure out and have a negotiation with these countries, just as US had a negotiation the other day, a pretty hard negotiation, I would say, with Colombia. But they did manage to do it. So we'll have to pull the string somewhere. But Shreya, unfortunately, in our country, we have an opposition that is all set to patronize them, encourage them, and pretty much lie on the ground or approach the courts just to stop their deportation or just for them to be branded as illegals. I'll give you an example. Ghulam Ahmad Mir, Congress's Jharkhand in charge during the elections in Jharkhand, he went on as far as saying that we'll give gas cylinders even if they are illegal immigrants here. Can you imagine this? Prashant Bhushan approaches the Supreme Court. Mamta Banerjee says that please treat them on humanitarian grounds. When the government of the day decides on 15 September 2017 that they need to be deported, she hounds them. She says it's Islamophobic and they should be protected. They are our brothers and sisters. So this kind of rhetoric, the BSF has time and again demanded from the Mamta government in Bengal that for border purposes, we need more land to build more posts for the BSF. She's refused them land, saying, why does the BSF need more land? Do they want to keep an eye on us? So the first thing that we need is complete lack of politicization on this issue and unity. I'm so glad we are discussing this because now is the correct time, because the foreign media cannot question us today. When we say foreign, let's be honest about it, it's largely been America. When America itself is doing this, it gives us an opportunity to get rid of illegals here. And now to your questions, what we need to do, we must support an NRC in our country. Let's not whip up hysteria. Even for CA, which was not about taking anyone's citizenship, we saw what happened at Shaheen Bagh. So let's stop politicizing it as AAP. In AAP, Mohinder Goyal, Jai Bhagwan, these are two MLAs who issued written letters asking for voter ID cards of these people, of these Rohingyas. So there is a very serious problem here where people see them as vote banks. That's the last thing we need to do. And then once we are united on this, it's the government that needs to negotiate and negotiate hard. I must say the government also needs to do more here. They need to negotiate with Myanmar and Bangladesh and pull the strings because we can't be keeping them. We don't have a country.
Myanmar is saying हमारे लोग नहीं हैं. Bangladesh is saying they are not our citizens. Prove that they are our citizens. What do you do? But Shubhankar Bhattacharya, the fact is, Tessin, you want to come in? Very quickly, I want to go to Shubhankar Bhattacharya with this entire thread that they are politically patronized, especially in states like West
let
Bengal.
let Mr. Bhattacharya speak. I'll come in later.
Mr. Bhattacharya, would you want to come in here? That is a fact, right? The charge always has been that Mamta Banerjee has encouraged illegals from Bangladesh to come in. Why? Because they can then constitute a chunk of her vote bank. That if illegals have to be deported from this country and illegal people who reside in this country are taking away our resources, are draining our resources, then it cannot just be the effort of the center. The state has to step in and say, all right, we are with you on this. But very often that doesn't happen, not at least in West Bengal.
Shreya, see, one thing is there that initially when you started, you said that it was not known, and when when the question of Bengal is put to me, and I'm left to defend the TMC only over here. So the thing is, number one, when you talk about Bengal, the biggest issue again, which even I think the TMC has been fighting over there. They have raised the issue quite a number of times, as like the Assam government as well, which Himanta Biswa Sharma has already said. He has continuously been raising the issue that, of course, the Assam border, the Bengal and Assam, we have the larger share of border with Bangladesh, which is unfenced till date. Why it is not being taken, on whom the onus is, I think that is well known to everyone. Next thing is, even if, say, the illegal immigrants are getting, you say the duplicate Aadhaar cards made or anything, this is again a case of internal security.
Correct.
And you again very well know yourself who that your onus is going to be on. Now, can you put the state government to blame on each and everything over there? It is a narrative, we just support, if you want me to support the blind narrative, okay, the TMC is getting the political benefit out of it. No way. See, it is a huge problem for even the Bengal government over there, when it comes to the law and order situation or anything which happens, while these illegal immigrants cause a chaos over there and they flee from there. But illegal immigrants are not only Rohingyas. Not only Rohingyas. I'm not saving them. But the problem is, like you said, once you send these illegal immigrants back, the US has opened a Pandora's box of trouble. Now even the Australia is saying, I was just watching a show. Now even Australia is saying, if US can do it, why not Australia? Australia? If US can do it, why not Thailand?
But
Even
Mr.
if US can
Bhattacharya,
do it,
every
even
country will
Pakistan
say it.
Start saying that, why not Pakistan?
Mr.
So the thing
Bhattacharya,
is,
but every country will
the
say it.
same
na?
thing is over here as
If
well.
you have 3 crore
but yes,
people,
but the
and this
thing
is a
at the
very,
same
this is
point
a
of
very
time, do we
generous
think-
estimate.
Shreya, let me finish.
If
Just
3
one
crore
last
people
point.
are illegally
Shreya,
living in this
Shreya,
country,
Shreya, just one last
if
point.
in the state of Assam, Assamese speaking
Shreya.
people have become a minority, obviously these questions will be raised. That if America can do it, why not India? These are
No,
obvious
Shreya,
questions.
let me finish.
Every
Of
country
course,
has to
of
look
course
out for
I agree.
itself and its
Shreya, I agree
citizens
with you.
first.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I completely agree with you. And that is what I'm also asking. That's just take an example that if all the countries, taken, because the immigration outside of India has happened a lot, because people from India have gone to Australia, to US, to everywhere. Now, if the deportation like this starts, it is going to be a huge problem. I don't think that our external affairs minister is going to be that humble to accept, deportation from each and everywhere.
No, India has said.
Now the thing comes
Mr.
to up
Bhattacharya,
at the
India has
point
said
of
that the
humanitarian
18,000
grounds.
immigrants-
The humanitarian grounds have to be looked on by the US government. Are we expecting humanitarian
No,
grounds
okay.
from the foreign governments? Are we or are we not? If we do that, do we want to
No,
see
we are
the
not.
same thing that happened
No, we
to
are not.
family
Because the
who are
government
trying
of
to
India has said
illegally
that all
immigrate into this thing
18,000
from
Indians
Canada?
who live
No.
illegally in the
So
US,
what is the-
please
so-
deport them back.
So just imagine, Shreya, the biggest
Tessie, you want to
question
come
is...
in? Give me a
The
minute.
biggest question is, what if it
Haan.
happens, it becomes
now-
a world
एक
order?
मिनट, एक मिनट.
So what happens?
ठीक है? I mean, if you are... नहीं, what is this? आप अगर illegally कहीं जाएंगे and you're being deported back, what is the problem in that? Where is the humanitarian crisis? Yes, I agree that for Rohingyas, they have nowhere to go. And Bangladesh says these are not our citizens. But, if India is saying that we are going to accept 18,000 Indians back into our soil because they illegally entered America, how is it opening a Pandora's box?
From one
Do you
country.
want to come in here?
From one country.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Ek
so much.
second,
Thank you.
ek second.
Mr. Bhattacharya, please, may
Ek
I?
minute,
Mr. Please, Bhattacharya, thank you. Thank you so much, Shreya, for having me on the show. And this is
Please,
perhaps
please.
the reason why those who oppose the BJP always find themselves in knots. If I were to ask a TMC sympathizer right now that people illegally come into their house, poor people, and occupy his house illegally, will he say, no, you must have sympathy and stay in my house, use my bedroom, use my toilet? Or he'll say, bye. He'll call up the nearest police station and say, inko bahar nikalo. So what holds true for your house should hold true for your country. How does it change the thing? Now you see, what Trump did with Colombia and Petro is exactly what India needs to do with this NGO that's running Bangladesh. This NGO wala, Jhola wala who's running Bangladesh, exactly that. Put him in his place and you'll have Trump support. The Myanmar problem is slightly different because that is being governed by the United Nations, though India is not a signatory to the 1951
Correct.
United Nations Convention. The problem is also compounded because India does not have a national refugee law. It has a citizenship law. Now, citizenship is very different from a refugee act. So, therefore, there is a lot of confusion and it's not a consistent policy of the state on how to deal with refugees. What actually transpires as sympathetic refugees. So, for the Rohingya issue, for everything that the BJP tom-toms about and says that the Rohingyas should be thrown out and some out-of-work lawyers have been going to the Supreme Court, the centre has not had its stand specifically. It may say one thing on TV and one thing in political rallies. Actually, these Rohingyas are being supported across the nation by the union government and with the United Nations monitoring it. They actually have United Nations I-card. And that is different, and I understand that. So first, we have two separate issues, and unless you don't have a national act to deal with refugees, you won't be able to deal with the problem at hand. Number two, this is a slightly more grave problem and a nuanced problem. I do have sympathy for people who want to move to other lands to sort of get a job. And immigration legally must be welcomed, legally, as long as they're adding value to the nation. You can't have people from any country going to another country and draining the resources of the country. It is a sovereign duty of the country to safeguard its sovereignty. The duty of the government to safeguard the country's sovereignty. This cannot happen. Now we went to CA, which is actually quite not required in this area. But even if we go to the argument of CA, which is actually not required in this particular debate, what is the cutoff date for CA? The arbitrary date for cut-off CA is 31st December 2014. Why? Because some babu must have thought in their head that 31st December 2014 sounds very good. What is 31st December 2014? Is it some date? What is the historical context? What is the number? Now what's happened with 31st December 2014? Since then, NGO wala has taken over Bangladesh. Pakistan has had its more problems. Taliban's taken over Afghanistan. What have you done? It's actually gone worse because everyone beyond 31st December 2014 do not qualify under CA. So the government again does not have a policy even with regards to CA and for those who are suffering. The last issue is, how do you actually streamline refugees so that they can at some point go back to their nation under the United Nations, whatever program is there? For example, the Rohingyas, even though Myanmar does not want to take them back, the United Nations does put pressure on Myanmar. And now the change in regime in USA, India might also have some space in Myanmar to play.
So I'm just countering a point you made. You said Rohingyas are here in India legally, largely. Actually not.
No, that's not illegal. That's not what I'm saying.
Out of 70,000, only about 17,000 Rohingyas in this country have that UN refugee card.
I'm not saying that they are at any given point of time legally there. I am saying if the government knows 70,000 refugees are in India, 40,000 of these have come after 2015 as admitted by Kiran Rijiju in Parliament. 16,000 of them are the ones who've come prior and they have the card. What stops the government from either giving them the card under the United Nations program or deporting them back? And if Myanmar is not willing to take them back, India had an arrangement earlier on with Bangladesh when Sheikh Hasina was there. So why didn't we work that out? So in that particular context, I find this astounding by the government, the union government. You know the exact number of people who've come into the country, but you don't know where they are. You can't locate them. You can't find them. You can't deport them. You can't send them back. You can't put them in camps. So what is the government doing?
Veena Sikri, then does Prime Minister Modi need to do what Donald Trump is doing? Simply threaten countries like Bangladesh and Myanmar with tariffs and taxes? I mean, I can't think of another way, because both these countries have taken a very strident view. I mean, even Malaysia stopped accepting Rohingya refugees. It's a Muslim-dominated country, but they are saying we can't deal with the influx that will come in if we start accepting everyone.
Yeah, look, I think first and foremost, the government has to make up its mind on whether it wants to deport the refugees or not. That's the first question. So the question of deportation of refugees is an important one, but which has to be broken down into smaller pieces. You cannot talk about, 2 crores at one go. You cannot tackle 2 crore people at one go. There are many among these 2 crores where the Indian courts have declared them as non-Indian citizens and their addresses are known and they're known that they're from certain place in Bangladesh or in Myanmar. These people have to be sent back first. There are many people still living in jails or in refugee camps who have been identified as non-Indian and as either from Bangladesh or Myanmar, but they haven't been sent back. So I think there is a strong need for the government of India to take a strong decision on this. There are, a lot of pressures from the opposition. There are pressures of the people being employed at lower wages. And that's why some business community people like to have them, because they take lower wages than the regular work, but you're depriving Indian citizens of their jobs. And I must also say that from the Bangladesh government is not that they are completely opposed. Those who have been identified are being taken back. Even Sheikh Hasina's government was taking them back. As and when you identify a person as belonging to a certain in Bangladesh, that person should be sent back. Maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 100 or 200, just do it. And let me tell you, it is being done. Now, about Myanmar, even the Rohingya that we handed back, some of the Myanmar government took them back. Now, of course, it's a completely different situation of a civil war situation, and many border points between India and Myanmar are not being controlled by the Myanmar army anymore. The Arakan army has stepped in, which is one of the, the ethnic armed organizations. So I think that it is a politically complicated situation with Myanmar. But even so, if a person has been identified as belonging to Myanmar, they have to go back to that country. They have given an address there. It has been recognized by the court that the address is there. I tell you that with the Bangladesh government, even in 1990, it was agreed to send back
Veena ji, you are saying that... Okay, you are saying that people who are identified are periodically sent back to Bangladesh. But ma'am, if we talk of last year, how many people were deported? Maybe a few hundred, sometimes in batches of 10, sometimes in batches of 8, sometimes 2 of them being deported. We are talking about 2 crore plus people. And if we do it in batches, we'll take the next 100 years to deport all of them back. My point is, the point I'm trying to make is it... Go ahead.
No, I am saying that you have to start somewhere. It may seem like a drop in the ocean, but it's the ocean, it is the drops that make up the ocean. If we don't start anywhere and wait for decision on 2 crore people, you're never going to get it. But if we start with what we have as a legal decision by the courts on deporting people, we must begin with those. The government must show attention by beginning with those, because these are instances where the Bangladesh government cannot say no. Their addresses have been identified in Bangladesh. It is known where they have to go. They have to be sent back. And I think it is an important point
No, I mean today.
No, I think even at the border right now with
Today,
Bangladesh, they are not accepting people. They are sort of creating problems at the border. They're not allowing us to complete the fence. Now, this is a problem that has to be taken up very strongly. There is no question for any softness on these issues, not at all.
Because there is one thing about deporting people back, and then there is the other issue of how do you stop them from coming in. Now, if your borders are not fenced, and God knows that our borders with Myanmar and with Bangladesh are very, very porous, and they're porous for a reason. And the reason is political as well, because all the cattle trading, the human trafficking happens through these porous borders. So there is no political will also beyond a point to fence the borders, Veena ji. That is what my sense is.
No, I must tell you,
I want to ask Mr. Hegde if there is any humanitarian angle as well. Yeah.
You know, this idea of humanitarian reasons we must let people in, illegal refugees or immigrants, etc., is actually not humanitarian. Imagine somebody who migrates from Bangladesh illegally or from Myanmar illegally into India or Nepal illegally into India, and then is working for much lower wages, but the owner who's employed him or her knows that the person's an illegal immigrant, is going to exploit. That itself is against human rights. So it is in the interest of human rights also to send them back to their country where they can live a life of dignity. Here, look at the life they're living, not of dignity. They're not getting the full wage. One, they're depriving an Indian, and they themselves are not getting. It is the duty of the government to safeguard the sovereignty of the nation. You can't allow people to come in. And if they're getting access to government documents and then becoming citizens or getting to vote, that's a threat to our sovereignty.
There's also a national security threat here, Sanjay Hegde, because Manipur's chief minister, who's been thoroughly incompetent, might I add, in controlling the situation, the ethnic situation in his own state, has blamed part of the problem on Myanmar, on terrorists, as he called them, coming in from Myanmar. But Sanjay Hegde, can I ask you if there is a humanitarian angle to all of this as well? Can we simply say, oh, the Rohingyas have no place to go, or Bangladesh doesn't want to take them back, तो अब क्या करें, इनको यहाँ रखना ही पड़ेगा, on humanitarian grounds? Can we really afford to be that kind?
Forget humanitarian grounds. The question is, what can you do? I entirely agree that the borders must be sealed. You must have safe borders. The other question is, just because you say, because India says that these are not Indians, does Bangladesh automatically accept them? Or are you going to, and this has happened, by the way, are you going to drive them to the border and push them across? This is called pushback in BSF parlance. You push them back across the border. The Bangladeshi rangers say they are not us, they are intruders, they shoot them. This is also what has happened. So please tell me, you have come out with a process of 2 crores. That figure is grossly, wildly exaggerated. I'll tell you where the real problem was. Bangladesh and India were all one country at one point of time. People could have moved 50 kilometers and borders came up. Children of those people, a large portion who are in poverty, have no records. All that the Indian process today has shown is that if you are unable to produce records which show you to be directly linked to Indian citizenship, there can't be any judicial finding that therefore you are a Bangladeshi who belongs to such and such place in Bangladesh. And that can't be enforced upon Bangladesh. You have a problem. The first solution is shut your borders. Physically, fence them. Correct. As far as those people who are already on this side, see what can be done, how much you can persuade Bangladesh to do it with whatever tariffs, this, that, and the other. Those that can go peacefully, yes. But the rest, and please mind it, it is not people who have migrated. It is people who have been born thereafter, who have known no other land other than India, who have been born on Indian soil, 2 generations, 3 generations, and can't prove a linkage. That is the kind of problem you're dealing with. Now, decide whether you want to be humanitarian, inhumanitarian, take a practical decision.
But is more than being a practical decision, Karan Verma, is it a political decision? Because you need to have strong political will. Trump had that strong political will. Here, the BJP creates a big hangama about illegal immigrants, and how the opposition patronizes them, etc. But actually has done nothing to move them out of this country.
For sure, the BJP needs to do more. They need to grow a stronger spine. I agree with you on that. But, I need to put some facts on record. Sanjay Hegde ji just said that there are not 2 crore illegals. Well, in 2004, on the floor of the House, Shri Prakash Jaiswal of the Congress party said there are 1.2 crore illegal Bangladeshis at that time in 2004. So, this has time and again been accepted pretty much by parties across the aisle. And to what Tehseen said, Kiran Rijiju did not say that 40,000 more have entered after 2014. No, 85% of the Rohingyas that we have today entered well before 2014. In fact, we remember what happened in the Azad Maidan riots, where we pretty much sat on a dharna and many of them vandalized the Amar Jyoti for entering the Rohingyas. Just imagine this, Shreya. In India, we admitted at that time to having 40,000 Rohingyas, even when Qatar had just 20 of them. Indonesia agreed for 1,200 of them. So we've time and again landed with a foot in our mouth as far as unity on such a sensitive issue is concerned. But you are right. We need to strike a deal with Bangladesh. Today, Bangladesh has unpaid dues for electricity given by us. We can pull the plug off if they do not accept the illegal immigrants who are here. And these illegal immigrants are not an act of love. Let's be clear, as Sam Pitroda said, or as Mamata Banerjee said, 131 rapes and murders committed in Jharkhand, mostly by illegals. In fact, the citizens sat outside the police station asking for them to be deported. So this is a very serious law and order issue. Yes, there are in excess of at least 2 crore illegals here. We need them deported. And the center in the Supreme Court has given a clear affidavit that Rohingyas are a national security threat. So what Tehseen was saying, that the center is dilly-dallying, it might be dilly-dallying in action, but its intention is pretty clear. They are illegal and they are a national security threat.
Intention ka kya karna hai?
Sorry?
But Karan, as the Supreme Court often says, it's not the intention that matters, it's the act that matters.
Exactly.
I agree with you.
We leave it there. The point is that everyone has a viewpoint on this, and it was good to get everyone's views on. Thank you very much, Karan. I believe you're staying with us for the next debate, so do stay on. Veena ji, thank you very much. Sanjay Hegde, thank you very much. And Tehseen, where are you off to? You're staying with us for the next debate as well. Shubhankar Bhattacharya, thank you very much for joining us as well. Ladies and gentlemen, a quick break. On the other side, has the Mahakumbh tragedy been exaggerated by the opposition, as Hema Malini is claiming? That is up next. Do stay with us.